Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel. Today I'm joined by Kian. Kian, you're driving Delaware, right?
Yep, Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay, Wilmington, Delaware. I don't get to interview too many of our own contributors. So Kian is a contributor on the channel. We'll talk about his latest project shortly, but what Kian has done is actually he's brought some, fresh blood to the channel because, we're all older, right? It's a new demographic, younger demographic, and it was much needed, and I think he's doing an amazing job. So with that said, Kian, welcome and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sergio. For everyone who's new to me or new to the Rideshare Guy and new to me as a contributor, my name is Kian Lynch. As mentioned, I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, and alongside being a contributor, a video contributor for the Rideshare Guy, I also have my own YouTube channel, Kian. And how I kind of came to the world of Uber and Uber rideshare was actually from channels like the Rideshare Guy. I very specifically remember an interview, I guess would be a little older now, I guess, in terms the first interview you guys had with Levi from Tip You in the App, shoutouts. And that interview was such a spearhead for a lot of success that I found early days for me as a rideshare driver. And I think it was a lot of help for me to understand kind of the market, but also understand how to really explore my market in healthy ways and more specifically explore where not to go in the market and what rides not to take. So yeah, I've been a big fan of the Rideshare Guy for quite some time. So I'm glad we can make this happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you, but we try to inform, right? We try to educate and sometimes entertain. So,
Sometimes.
what we try to do is, make every rideshare driver that we're in touch with more efficient, right? Because a lot of people think, just put gas in the car and go, turn the app on and go. No, it doesn't work like that because we have done our research on this, right? So in the exact same market, a top 5% driver earns over two times more than a bottom 5% driver. Why is
Yep.
that? They're driving the same market, same streets, same app, right? Everything is the same except the earnings. So there is a method to this madness, okay? And I think you wonderfully displayed that on your last video that we put up on the channel. Let's talk a little bit about that video, which was the 24-hour challenge that you put yourself through, right? And so let's talk a little bit about the 24-hour challenge, how you ended up. I mean, I know those kind of videos take forever to put together because, it's done over, days or weeks probably, but I'll let you explain how you did that and if you are happy with your results.
Yeah, so the 24-hour challenge was something that was always a bit of a fantasy, a mysticality, mainly just because it was so out there. Like, yeah, actually, yeah, let's just go drive for 24 straight hours. Yeah, sure. But when I had kind of found, I detailed it in the video itself, when I had fi found this market, it kind of just like clicked for me that like if there was ever a chance I was going to do this, it was here and now. I probably wasn't going to get as good an opportunity considering the market, considering the bonuses, considering just the enjoyability of the market. And then, so I really had to streamline and plan it. Like there were multiple weeks building up to that where I had thought like this was going to be the week, this was going to be the weekend, it's going to be the time I do it. And then something happened in my personal life. And then it ended up raining really badly, like right before then. And I didn't want to like take that gamble. So I really had to line it up beforehand. And then in the process of doing the challenge, I mean, I did my best to really share everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the rainy, uh, the sleep, like all of it. And I tried not to sugarcoat it, and I also tried to make it as clear as possible. But there was something that I inherently had with this challenge on this market that was going to be more beneficial for me than if I had, again, just did this in my like central market of Wilmington, Delaware. Whereas the, that huge bonus that I got for every single ride, whether it was a 3-minute ride or a 30-minute ride or a 2-hour ride, you know? So I tried to keep that in mind. And I also tried to share it as broken down as possible, all of the details, all the stats, because people want numbers. People want to really know what happened, how much it costed, how much time it spent, and everything that came down to it, because they want to know more specifically, not necessarily that people are just going to go out and do a 24-hour YouTube challenge, but what can they expect? What can be realistic if they executed something to the core idea of, maybe I should begin to explore outside of like my central market. Maybe it's worth it going 20 minutes up in my market or 20 minutes down in my market to explore these other areas that other drivers have said are super profitable, but I've never experimented because that's not necessarily what I want to do. I don't want to go all the way out of like my central comfort zone where I already know, go to something that I don't know. And
Yeah.
I think it's something that's difficult for especially a lot of experienced drivers because it's, that fear of the unknown, especially with even like I can even say that with a lot of the brand new drivers too, like people who
Yeah.
are just getting into this. And that's why you see so many drivers, young or just, young and old, new, especially like new drivers that end up like just giving it like 2 weeks and then they quit
Yeah.
because
But
they don't want to give it. Yeah, go ahead.
your video actually proved a lot of the things that we talk about on the Rideshare Guy, right?
Mhm.
Which is you have to explore, you have to adapt. You could have done this challenge in your own city, right? Driven to Philadelphia or whatever not. But then you waited for your time to do this challenge, and then you went to an area that offered you bonuses, which we always say you have to stack up all these bonuses because driving for base fares is not profitable these days. It's just
Yeah.
not. But a lot of people get stuck in a box and they just keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, which is the definition of insanity for me, right?
Yep.
And then they get upset and then they get complaining. And I'm like, you're doing it to yourself, right? You got to listen, you got to learn, you got to adapt. When these apps zig, you got to zag. This has been going on forever. This is a game. To me, I think this is more like a simulation, actually. It's just a game. We're playing a video game,
Yeah.
right? Except that it involves money, it involves driving. So I don't want to give too much of it away. So for whoever did not watch that video, it's on the channel. It was released a couple of days ago. Please go check it out. He has done a wonderful job. One thing I'm going to mention here that a lot of you already, I can hear it and feel it, that they're going to say, well, Uber only allows you to drive 12 hours on the app. I'm like, okay, I got it. He's saying 24. That's why you need to go check out the video to see what he did in between. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously Uber is not going to let him drive for 12 hours, but enough of the video. And I think you did a wonderful job. Keep up the great work. So
Thank you.
let's talk a little bit about, I know you kind of hinted how you got into rideshare, right? I mean, look, you're a young man, right? And I am sure, I don't know what you did before as far as work or job is concerned, but it seems like you've been doing this for a while. So how started doing rideshare, and how long do you anticipate or think of doing it, and what kind of car you drive? Give us a little bit more detail about or color about your life.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we gotta go a little bit further back. So we're gonna go back to 2022, and right before I had started doing any form of work that relates to the gig economy, I was working as a sales representative for a company that outsourced just like AT&T at your like local BJ's, Walmarts, those kiosks. And I hated it, man. It was something that was so frustrating, and I hated it somewhat because I was actually kind of good at it. Like I was good at being able to like get people over and like check out this new cell phone plan, like whatever it was. But I hated it because it felt kind of unethical. And what ended up happening was shortly after I'd started that job, I ended up getting my license. So what ended up happening after that was shortly after that, I had gotten the recommendation to try out Grubhub. And I had heard of the gig apps like Grubhub and Doordash and whatever. And I was like thinking of signing up for those, like just as an extra bit of space for income. Nothing as in like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna do this as my primary form of income, just like something else on the side. But I ended up trying it one night, and this is so silly. I tried it one night. I worked for 2 hours with Grubhub. I made $24. And when you don't make commissions with that sales rep job I was doing, when you didn't make like bonuses on your commissions, you were making like $11 an hour. So I was thinking about that money, like I just made $24 in 2 hours. I made $12 an hour. I made more jamming out to music, in my car, giving people food, doing something that makes them happy versus something that kind of makes people irritable and not want to deal with me. So, and it was something that was so like mind-bending to me that this was like, feasibly possible. So I made a really impulsive decision that night. I quit. I quit that sales rep job on like that night. Handed in my resignation and never looked back. I got signed up with DoorDash the next week. And $12 an hour. Obviously, that I went from like $12 an hour. I think it went to like 18 an hour on average. And then it was like, once I got really good, it was like 20, 25 an hour. I think at my peak, I was hitting like 35 an hour with DoorDash, keep in mind, in my market, which was very, very impressive, I think, market-wise. But also it was just like a huge like realization that, yeah, I can do this. I don't have to talk, I have to worry about any bosses. I get to choose my own hours. I mean, choose your own hours. You have to play the game, as we've said. And then how that shifted into Uber was that, obviously at some point the demand with DoorDash was beginning to slow down, and I got a promotion with Uber. I had signed up, but I had like a lot of technical issues in the beginning, so I was just kind of doing Uber Eats on the side, and that was like horrible on my market, so I wasn't too enticed. But then I got this offer from Uber. It was like I think it was a $4 Boost Plus promotion or something. And this was back before they have that, like the whatever terrible system they're doing now, where it's like the active hour thing, like completely ruining Boost Plus. But like it was back then where it was like every single ride was the Boost Plus offer. So I was getting like $4 extra per ride for like an hour, but it required me to go up to Central Philly, which is about like a 30 to 45-minute drive, depending on the traffic. So I said, you know what, whatever. One night, one morning, I'm gonna give this a try. We got to try something new. We got to spread our wings a little bit here. Um, so I did. I went up. I think that morning I made like $160 in like 4 hours or something like that, which was unprecedented for me. And that was really exciting to me because I was brand new to this market. I didn't know what I was doing at all. I was just taking rides that I thought made sense, that were, as we say, that was showing me the money, where you had to really look at those numbers. So that's where I started to go all in on Uber. And I was in Central Philly for a while. And then I started moving around some of the other Philadelphia, Pennsylvania areas around that area. I've been working down here in central Wilmington, not only because it's closer, but because I do find a lot of good short rides and good like comfort and comfort electric rides as well. And leaning into that, that's when I got my first electric car, the current car I have now, which is a 2020 Tesla Model 3. That in of itself was a little bit of an impulsive choice, but I saw that I could get extra premium rides with that in my market, and it was something when I wanted, like I definitely wanted to do it. It was something when my own family was telling me, "Go for it, you should do this." So
Yeah.
I leaned into it, and I gotta say, financially speaking, best decision I made. That I have gained so many opportunities because of the car I have now, not only just with Uber, but I mean, you have to look at the opportunities I've been able to do through showing the premiere rides and reservations through
Yeah.
through Uber on YouTube, not only on the Rideshare Guy YouTube channel, but on my own YouTube channel. And that has taken me so far. So it's opened
Yeah.
up so many doors, and it's been a great ride, pun intended.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, look, obviously you're a go-getter, right? So you decide, although some decisions may be impulsive, but those you can afford to make when you're young, right? Because mistakes, you can recover from your mistakes. But if you're
Yeah.
my age and older drivers, they make mistakes and they can't recover and they get into debt and they do this and they do that. They have to figure all this out. Because I
Mhm.
think what's missing here is that education regarding finances and education regarding profitability. And a lot of people these days, I feel like in rideshare, they're using their car as an ATM machine, right? Just to take the money out and use the remaining equity in their cars to pay short-term bills. And a year later, 60,000 miles on a bad back, and you have nothing to show for it. And then they complain. Well, no. I hope you're preaching to the choir, but I hope you're doing what you're telling our audience. Are you saving your money for your next car? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
are you watching your profitability more than the cash flow? Are you paying attention to it? Because if you're watching us, you definitely should be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point you make, Sergio, because it's something that you really have to eyeball, and it's something you have to do the math on when you look at how much you're spending versus how much you're making. What is that chunk that's coming out of your profits? What is your actual net profit when everything is said and done? So you have to really analyze that. And for me, besides looking at something like a Tesla and be like, oh yeah, I really want that. Because I mean, come on. Yeah, I think everybody probably does. I also had to look at it from a business decision. I'm not spending as much money on gas as I am spending on electricity. I have a deal with my electric plan. I spend $100 a month total on all of my charging when I charge at home. Killer deal. That means
Yeah,
$100 a month goes towards fueling the car, with the
yeah,
exception of the one or two times maybe where I have to go out and go to a supercharger. Comparing that to my Prius, which was a very, gas efficient car, for the mileage sake, but you also have to think about like even then, I was still spending 200, 250. I think at my peak I was probably spending about $300 a month, especially because I
yeah,
was spending 45 minutes going up to Philly. So it
yeah.
was becoming much more expensive. So from a business decision and from a mindset decision, it was something that made a lot of sense in the long run as well.
Yeah.
And especially I have a very laid out like spreadsheet of all my finances. And I really have to analyze, what am I going to need to make from Uber? How much is going to cost me to make that money from Uber? And am I making sure that I'm putting money aside towards savings, investments, a little bit of fun money here and there because you have to be alive a little
Yeah.
bit. But it's definitely something that I feel a lot of people don't consider, which is the actual physical cost, not only in the literal sense of like how much money is it going to cost you and what's it going to cost your car, but in the physical sense too, as you mentioned, like a lot of people are quite literally driving themselves to death because they're not being
Right.
careful enough with their physical health in the process.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more because I think, a lot of people look at rideshare as like, just as far as money is concerned, right? I mean, rideshare is a solitary business other than the times we have a passenger in the car. And, it's not a healthy business either. We're sitting down all day long, right? And there's a physical cost to this. There is a mental cost to this. There is a spiritual cost. There is all kinds of cost to this, and people don't factor that in. That's worth something, right? But I want to, give a shameless plug to my new finance channel because you may not know, but I was on Wall
Oh,
Street
I
for,
know.
okay, so I keep saying this, okay? So how old are you? May I ask how old you are?
I'm 23.
Okay, 23. You're the perfect candidate. So, Kian, if you, other than all the income you're going to have the rest of your life, okay?
Hmm.
If you just took $100 a month, 100 single dollars a month, and put it in an account, any account, open a Robinhood account, whatever account you want, right? And invest once a month, $100 for the next 40 years, because retirement age is 65, let's say, in this country at the moment, right? Do you know how much money you will have just by investing $100 into any ETF? ETF is exchange traded fund, which
Yep.
is Spiders and Triple Qs and Russell 2000,
Yep.
whatever. They all have ETFs. Do you know how much money you'll have at the end of 40 years and you don't touch this money? It
Yeah.
compounds.
Yeah. Compound interest. I think you're probably looking $100 a month.
Yeah,
Probably looking anywhere from like five to 600,000, maybe more. I mean, it depends on
1.2
the year.
million.
Ooh. Yeah.
See?
There you go.
Okay, so now you're gonna this is outside your IRA, 401k, other investments, other earnings you have.
Right.
It's $100 a month, right? People don't understand the power of compounding, power of investing, so please start doing it. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I believe there's
So
a, sorry to interrupt, there's a brilliant quote. I think it's from Albert Einstein. I think he quite literally said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. I believe
absolutely,
it's what he said.
absolutely, and a lot of people don't. My mentors used to say the time you spent in the market is much more important than the time you spend timing the market. A lot of people go, "Oh, I think market's going to go down." Don't even think about it. Dollar cost average once a month, first day of the month, put the $100 in. It's like the infomercial that we used to have, right? It's like set it and forget it. That's it. And then come back, and then $1.2 million is yours. Um, but let's talk a little bit about rideshare. Okay, let's talk a little bit
Mhm.
about your market. You've been doing it for a while now.
Mhm.
What changes have you seen? What do you like? And I asked this towards the end, but I'm going to ask you now towards the middle here. Give me two
Mhm.
things you like about rideshare and two things you don't like about rideshare.
Yeah. Two things I like about rideshare. to be a little bit stereotypical, but I do think there is something that is really special about the overall flexibility of rideshare. I mean, you could say this about a lot of the gig economy, but rideshare specifically, I think gives you a special power to really control the variables as to what you are able to make and how you're able to make it.
Yeah.
You are able in a way to set your own hours. You are in a way able to be your own boss. And I think you could probably say that both as a pro and a con because it requires you to be responsible with your hours. It requires you to be your own boss, but be hard on yourself because you are your own boss in the way
Yeah.
that your boss would be hard on you. You could see it as both a pro and a con. I'm going to list it as a pro personally. Another pro, I mean, personally about rideshare is there is so much I have learned from my passengers, from the people in my car, and from the world around me because of the opportunities I got that I wouldn't have got through rideshare. Because if I was just doing like DoorDash or Amazon Flex or something like that, where I wasn't really talking with people, was just in my car and like giving people food or packages or something like that, you don't really learn as much in that regard. But when you have people in your car, and not everyone's going to want to talk to you, that's perfectly fine. But for the people who do want to share a conversation with you, you tend to learn a lot. You learn about different cultures, different backgrounds, and you really get to explore areas that had been kind of blind to some areas of your mind. And I think it's something that's really special that you probably won't get in a lot of other opportunities in the terms of the gig economy. Two cons that I've seen, if we're going to be market specific, in terms of my market, and this is something you guys have prefaced on very extensively on the Show Me the Money Club, promotions are down
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And it has been so hard for so many people. I have been affected by this as much. Like this time last year, I remember getting Quest promotions that was like, 150 to 175 to $200 for, 60 to 90 trips, which is,
Yeah.
very good. Now I don't get Quest promotions at all. They're gone.
Yeah.
Just and the Boost Plus promotions, I mentioned that previously. They went from like, per ride to now per active hour, which just
Yeah,
feels
it's
like a really
bogus.
good way to scapegoat drivers.
Yeah. But
Um,
but
it,
but see, this is when you need to understand that, okay, for certain weeks, for certain drivers, promotions used to be or are 30-40% of their overall earnings, right? Now you need to figure out what else you can do because promotions are probably not going to come back until there's a shortage of drivers again, which in this day and age with the economy, what's happening, there's no shortage of drivers. In fact, there's
yeah,
an oversaturated marketplace, right? So
absolutely. Yeah.
thing is now this is when you put your thinking hat on and you go, okay, what do I need to do? Maybe in summers, what you did as the 24-hour challenge should be the norm for you. Drive down there, grab those promotions, grab the surge if your city is not working out. You can't just say, oh, here's my mouth, put it in, put it in. It's just not going to do it. Look, these
Yeah.
companies created wonderful marketplaces, right? They created the demand, they created all the stuff. They burned billions of dollars to do it, right? But then now, as a driver, you have a responsibility to strategize and adapt. Yes, promotions are down, but then look, I talk to thousands of drivers, the good ones still figure it out somehow what to do. And they may not come close to what they were earning a couple of years ago, but still definitely higher than
Yeah,
other
I
drivers.
think you bring up a brilliant point there, Sergio. It's a big difference between what a lot of the comments I see in like the YouTube comment sections of a lot of Uber-based videos, positive or negative, you see them all the time, versus I would say a lot of the drivers that are actually doing what you say, because it really comes down to the baseline thought process of, yeah, this is unfortunate. What are you going to do about it? Are
Yep.
you going to sit back and complain? Are you going to figure out and you're going to really see because maybe there are some opportunities that might seem really bad, but can be turned in a good way. Like,
Yep.
for example, one that really comes to mind is the difference with, and I think this is still in like very select markets. I know it just got activated in my market, the new difference with the airport trip radars. I
Yeah.
think that's so silly. I have
It is.
no idea. It's just going to create cluster. It's going to create people who are like getting the Uber bots who are going to like automatically accept rides whenever they get
Yeah.
them. I think it's going to create more problems than solutions, just like technically on a technicalities level. But, for somebody like me who has options that maybe a lot of other drivers in like my airport queue wouldn't have for like premium rides, for comfort or comfort electric rides, that gives me an opportunity where if I was 20 spots back in the queue, I would just have to wait for however long it would take to get me up to the front of the queue. Whereas now, I have the opportunity to fight with the other 20 drivers to click faster.
Yep.
So all I have to do is just pay more attention.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
very
No,
silly example, but I mean, just as an example there,
yeah, no,
sometimes
but
you just have to make it work for
look,
you.
you're 100% correct. You gotta play the game. It's
Absolutely.
non-ending. You got to play the game. It's a game. I look at rideshare when I go out and drive as a game. You have the machine learning and AI on one end, but then I have my brain on this end. So I'm going like, okay, I accept that I cannot beat you, but I can improve what I am doing. Because certain things are under my control,
Yeah.
right? You can't control everything as Uber. So to me, a lot of drivers do quit, a lot of drivers do give up and they go, oh, I hate this, I hate this. But then, the next day they're turning the app back on again, right? I mean, I say this as a rideshare channel. If it's so bad, why you keep driving? Delete
Yeah.
the app. Move on. Do something else, right?
Yeah.
But
And
then
I actually
people,
wanted to add, sorry to interrupt. I did want to add, I think that your analogy is quite beautiful there in terms of talking about a game. And I would say now it's the type of game where you're playing the next level. The next level is
yep,
not supposed to be as easy as the level before it. It's going to get harder. It's going to get more difficult. The goal is to adapt. The goal is to overcome. The goal is to beat the game. So that's how but you also
I
have to play the game at the same time.
I 100% agree. So now that you mentioned the goal, perfect segue. So you're 22-year-old young man.
23, yes.
I am sure you have plans, okay? Because I look at rideshare as a stepping stone to something better, right? This is not a career. You just honestly, when people say I drive full time, I'm like, I feel for you, 60, 70, 80 hours. It's tough. It's a tough way to make a living. And I think the pay today is not commensurate to the risks that we're taking driving. Look, drive 5, 6, 7,000 miles a month. It's dangerous. It's
Oh, yeah.
period. There is no ifs and buts about it. But forget about that part. Talk to me a few minutes about your plans. Obviously, you have a wonderful YouTube channel. The link will be in the show notes, so please go check him out. But what are your plans? What are you going to do with your life? You're only 22. You have the whole life ahead of you.
Yeah, so just to add on to that, I think that there's a couple different ways that it could go, but what my mindset is right now is I am going to continue doing what works. So
Okay.
right now, what I am doing works at least enough. It might be difficult. It might be, kind of strenuous at times. I may have to deal with some, irritable people. It's just how you have to deal with it. That's life. But it's working. And that's what matters to me most. I'm doing work for myself through Uber. I'm doing work through, as a contributor on the Rideshare Guy. I'm doing work through my own YouTube channel and my own business. So it is a matter of continuing to develop those areas. And I could give you like the streamlined, oh my goodness, which way do I really want it to go? But I could also, I feel like I would be telling you something that could be completely wrong or could be just complete fantasy. But what's important to me right now is continuing to do what works. Uber's
Okay.
working for me. My content with the Rideshare Guy is working for me, obviously. And my content with my business and with my brand is working as well. And I love what I do. I love doing all the things that I do. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't continue pursuing it.
Yeah, there's so many people who just do it for a paycheck, and I can tell from your content, your own channel and our channel, you put the work into it, you just don't slap a video together, you put some effort into it, and then you will get rewarded. I mean, it's so refreshing for me. Look, I could be your dad, okay? It's so refreshing for me to see a 22-year-old with a straight head on their shoulders, you know what I'm saying? Who says, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm gonna do, whatever works. It's so refreshing to me. But so it was pleasure, talking to you, obviously. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'll give you the last 2 minutes. Give us some
Okay.
advice. Anything you want to talk about, you have 2 minutes to close.
All right, 2 minutes to close. All right, get started. It's as simple as that. Get started. If there's something you want to do in your life, get started. Nobody's going to be able to hold your hand through the entire process because if they were able to, like, think about how they got started. They didn't get started by somebody holding their hand through the process. If people had that, then people would be able to give the advice on it. Everybody started with a little bit of a different route. If you want to do rideshare, if you want to do food delivery, if you want to do packages, if you want to do YouTube, all of them are viable options if you're willing to put your head down and figure out what's going to work for you. But you're never going to figure that out if you don't get started. And I know it's scary. Trust me. I've been doing YouTube for over half a decade. I started this room that you see right now. It did not look like this half a decade ago. I had a $10 webcam, my laptop, I was in the corner of my room. None of this foam padding here existed. I had like a cheap Walmart light that was keeping me lit whilst I was playing video games. It didn't work for me from the beginning. I mean, in some ways it did, in some ways it didn't, but I had to learn. I had to learn what worked. I had to learn what didn't. People can tell you those things, but sometimes it's more about experiencing them. So if you want to get somewhere in any of these fields or just in whatever field you want to, go forward with in life, get started. Make the mistakes, do whatever you have to do because it's not going to just happen out of thin air. You have to make it work for yourself.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. My hat's off to you. I wish you the best in everything. Obviously, we not work for, but we work with, the same circles. So here's Kian from Wilmington, Delaware. Look, he's only 22, but he's got a 42-year-old head. So please learn from this kid. And I call him kid with much love. And but he's going places. So with that said, I want to thank you. I appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch. And two important things in life: stay healthy and stay safe. Okay?
Stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you so much, Sergio. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Wheel on the Rideshare Guy. We've been doing these interviews for the past 6 months with very successful drivers from different cities around the nation. Click here for another episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications for other episodes of Behind the Wheel as well as amazing content on our channel.